A very warm welcome, art lovers, to the art vlog with me, George Dopamine. Today I want to take you inside the show by Mike Nelson, one of Britain's foremost installation artists, here at the South Bank in London at the Hayward Gallery. Mike Nelson holds a very dear place in my heart because of three key works that I've seen in the flesh: the Asset Strippers and the Coral Reef, both shown at Tate Britain, and also Triple Bluff Canyon, which was shown at Modern Art Oxford a very long time ago, and I've really enjoyed all of these works. There's also works I've been desperate to see, like his 2011 Venice Biennale piece, or the work at the Old Essex Street Market in New York, which I just couldn't get to financially. I'm really interested in this exhibition because it's going to be potentially like a survey of his work, but lots of his installations were one-offs. They were built for a specific site in a specific place and then taken down. So how is the Hayward Gallery going to provide a full, comprehensive retrospective or overview of his work? I don't know how it's going to be. I deliberately haven't read any reviews on this show or any background because I want to be surprised myself. This show is on until the 7th of May. It's £15 to get in from Wednesday to Friday, £16 at the weekend. I'm really excited. It's the third most anticipated exhibition by me in the London this year. So come along as I take you inside Mike Nelson's Extinction Beckons. Accessible art is really important to us on the art vlog, and whereas the Hayward Gallery itself is fully accessible, unfortunately two exhibits within Extinction Beckons are not. So you can enjoy lots of the show, but do get in touch with the Hayward Gallery for further details. The first work is Imposter, originally created for the 54th Venice Biennale in 2011, yet this is categorically not the original installation. You can see that in the link below. Instead, it is a packed up, labelled warehouse-style version of the installation, its original meaning lost despite the labels. You're left to wander the spaces in between, bathed in the very distinctive red light of a photography studio, pondering the meaning of the work. And while it's disappointing not to experience the original work, I took it to be a meditation on Nelson's artistic practice as he began to sort of think about the works that he had produced before. From here, you're propelled to the beating, searing heart of the show, the Deliverance and The Patience, a work from 2001. From the outside, as you can see here, it looks like a poorly executed attempt to build a structure out of flat pack. But once inside, through a deliberately creaky door, you're thrown into Nelson's visceral, claustrophobic otherworld. Dystopian, yes, but so detailed that it's all about that very basic act of art, noticing. You're given multiple choices of doors in some rooms. It's up to you which one you choose. In theory, we'll all experience this piece differently. At times it becomes very claustrophobic, and you need to be aware of that as you sort of go through a door and are brought back on yourself. But the details, like this room suggesting a recently abandoned space, is really powerful and compelling. And what I love about it is that, as you can see from this sort of shrine-like room, there's no explanation. Nelson is trusting us to use our imagination to work out what the hell's going on and what went on here. It's an incredibly powerful piece. For me, it's a bit like as close as you can get in art to being in a novel. Look at this bar that I came across. You're asked questions about who was just sitting here, who was wearing these leather jackets, and your mind and your imagination begins to fill in the gaps. So it was an incredibly satisfying show in that sense, because you, the viewer, are allowed to touch, to feel, to explore as you go round the installation, which is vast. I mean, it takes over a large part of the Hayward second floor. One of my favourite rooms, look at that fan going, was this travel bureau from the pre-internet age where you're seeing adverts for flights from Air France to Vegas, and almost like this telephone has just been abandoned by some eager salesperson. What act of violence saw this gambling den have a stool thrown over, the cards still left amongst a ornate but very old-fashioned light. There's one beautiful point where you're suddenly thrust up some stairs above the installation, and clearly in Nelson's way there is still detail up here to take in. In my opinion, this is a masterpiece. It's just a world-class installation, and I really hope that you can experience it. Upstairs is another masterpiece, Triple Bluff Canyon from 2004, which pays tribute to Partially Buried Woodshed by Robert Smithson, a site-specific piece at Kent State University. This is a spectacular work of yellows and browns. It feels almost impossible that it's merely temporary. At the time it was first shown, it was a departure for Nelson, a vast and barren open work, desolate, forbidding, with a possible message about entropy. But also deeply psychological. At the time, Britain was at war with Iraq, and the desert-like sand taking over this piece could be seen as a metaphor. You are then taken down a very Nelson-esque corridor, which you can see here enclosed, to another creaky door, which you're encouraged to open. Inside, there's a wonderful surprise of the photo studio from Imposter, called The Dark Room from 2011, from the first piece that's been packed up. The same red light takes you back to that first work, but the photos actually show Nelson installing Triple Bluff Canyon in a gallery 20 years ago. It's a profoundly contemplative moment of one piece merging into another as Nelson contemplates his art. You can then go through another door and be kind of inside the sandstorm, if you like. These tyres have been reclaimed from the M25, and when you have a look beyond them, as you can see, you can feel the sand taking over. Is this talking about desertification, like in the Gobi Desert? You're actually inside the woodshed. The Asset Strippers is a more conventional work of sculpture from 2019. The works will be well known to many British art lovers because they're a reclaimed part in Nelson's takeover of that central hall at Tate Britain. They are beautiful, but as always with Nelson, there is a conceptual twist, because the industrial and agricultural machinery that these sculptures are made from were acquired by Nelson in online auctions of company liquidators. And they're clearly telling us about, or referring to, Britain's declining industrial might. And yet when you look at them, and this was probably my favourite piece, these bits of machinery have been repurposed to create works of genuine beauty and symmetry. Studio Apparatus for Kunsthal Münster spills out across the lower gallery. It's a key work of Nelson's, part of a series of pieces initiated at Camden Art Centre in 1998, continuing to Geneva, and then on to the Palais de Tokyo in Paris, and simultaneously at Kunsthal Münster in Germany. A studio apparatus is a work constructed to exist somewhere between a studio and an exhibition, and each apparatus uses as a starting point an introduction to the book School for Crusoes by Jules Verne, in which he parodies his favourite genre. Nelson also uses the idea of parody here, and I have to say that this work didn't move me because it didn't transport me in the way that some of the other pieces did, but its sheer size is impressive, but in terms of its impact on me, it wasn't as strong as some of the other works in the exhibition. You may disagree though, so do put in the comments if you do. I was much more engaged with the Amnesiacs, an ongoing work that started back in 1996 about a fictional biker gang of military veterans from the First Gulf War. They suffer from PTSD, and this work consists of a series of sculptures in a cage. This is a work to look at, not walk through, but it is full of Nelson's signature motifs, where again you're allowed to fill in the gaps yourselves from the sculptures and the scavenged pieces that Nelson produces in this work. You know, a lot of Nelson's work is concerned with the position of outsiders in society, and the Amnesiacs is a massive part of that. Triple Bluff Canyon, the projection room from 2004, recreates Mike Nelson's living room in London, which doubled up as a studio and has this really eerie right-wing conspiracy theorist echoing in the background. Well, our lovers, that was a very dystopian, disturbing but enjoyable experience here at the Hayward Gallery on the South Bank, and it's quite weird coming out into the sunshine of London. As you know, on the art vlog, we're not so much art critics as reviewers of exhibitions, and whether this was your cup of tea or not, and I know for some of you it will be, some of you it won't be, you know, it was an outstanding representation of Mike Nelson's work. I was amazed at how many of his classic works were there. It was lovely, for example, to see Triple Bluff Canyon again. It was wonderful to see that, but it obviously had a twist this time, because Imposter, the dark room, was nestled in the wooden shed, which I don't remember from when I saw it in Oxford. Overall, this is a wonderful representation of Mike Nelson's work, and so if you're into installation art, this is a must-see. There are so many highlights. The Deliverance and The Patience, and this massive labyrinth-like installation where each little room is an installation in itself, is incredible. It was a very accessible piece of work in terms of age, if not, unfortunately, in terms of disability, and you need to bear that in mind. There was a huge range of people there enjoying it on lots of different levels, because installation art is all about the experience, the smell, and how you feel. And so I'm very aware my videos can't do this justice. There was an incredibly distinctive sense of claustrophobia to this main work, which totally takes you outside of the Hayward Gallery. This is about sensibility, it's about dystopia, it's about the feel of Mike Nelson projecting us into many different worlds. I know when I've seen him before, people have compared him to J.G. Ballard and other dystopian novelists, and I think that the comparison with novelists is really apt, actually, because it's like you're in these different worlds. You go into Imposter Darkroom, and it is an incredibly troubling and disturbing atmosphere. So this show, as a representation of Mike Nelson's work, I would give it a 9 out of 10. It's excellent. I didn't think the Hayward Gallery curators would be able to pull off a show which brings together and expresses so much about Mike Nelson and his art. So it's a wonderful experience. Do get along, because this show is on until the 7th of May. I think £15 or £16. Remember, the Hayward Gallery is not open on Mondays and Tuesdays, but I think £15 or £16 is incredibly good value. Don't forget to subscribe to the art blog, hit that notification bell for reviews and previews of upcoming shows from London, the southeast of England, and sometimes beyond.